I just want to give a quick warning to everyone. Make sure they have their phone ready to like research or like look shit up. But
Yeah.
so how you doing? I know it's your birthday. Happy birthday!
Thank you. I am
And yesterday,
36.
ooh,
I'm so old.
and yesterday was like 1 year since I started it out. So they're like right next to each other. This could be a tradition then.
I love it. I think it's fantastic.
You just gotta get close up.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah. You're good.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic to do a tradition. I love doing this.
Yeah. So Bigfoot.
Yeah. So Bigfoot. Uh, so recently I compete, and we talked about that in the last podcast, and so I've been traveling all over Oklahoma, Kansas, and around, and they take their Bigfoot really, really seriously. Like, you can go get Bigfoot T-shirts, and people go squatching and looking for Bigfoot, and I think it's ridiculous.
Really?
Oh yeah, no, like in Texas, it's not that big a deal, but
Mm.
Oklahoma, where else was I? Arkansas, Kansas, and there's some other state. No, but they take the Bigfoot thing like properly seriously, and people go squatching where they look for Bigfoot and all this. I don't know, man.
Really?
Oh yeah, no, for real.
I thought, because I knew it would be like in the Pacific Northwest, because that's where you supposedly find Bigfoot.
Yeah, right. But no, it's in the it's as you get closer to the Ozarks and the Smoky Mountains and that whole area over there, part of the United States. Yeah, they take it really
So
seriously.
Bigfoot also lives there?
Apparently, yeah, apparently.
Shit.
And there's lots of yeah, and this is the other thing. So my youngest son is completely convinced that Bigfoot exists, and of course he cites a lot of evidence, because there's sightings of Bigfoot everywhere there are mountains, right? And he's like, well, how is it that people in, like you said, the Pacific Northwest, like in Washington State and everything, have seen? There's all these like thousands and thousands of reports of Bigfoot, and also thousands of reports from Arkansas. So how is it that this thing doesn't exist? But I just can't believe I'm not there yet. I don't know. What is your opinion on Sasquatch? Do you think the Sasquatch could or maybe did at one time exist?
Well, I feel like probably not in the U.S. just because there's so many people that we
Right.
would have found it by now. But if you sight it like somewhere in the Amazon jungle or like
Right.
somewhere like the Congo where it's incredibly dense and there's no way you can get in, there's a possibility of a different sort of creature
Right.
in that area.
I just yeah. But I mean, if you look at orangutan and silverback gorillas and chimpanzee, bonobos, all those creatures, we found all those creatures, and supposedly they're half the size. These people are saying that Bigfoot's 8-9 feet tall, right? 700 pounds. Like, how in the world would we not have?
We would have
seen
found
that?
it. Yeah, we
Right,
would have found it by
exactly.
now.
If
Yeah.
we found the golden tamarin, which is a monkey that'll fit in your pocket, if if we found those, how in the world have we not found Bigfoot? We found, what was it that was recently discovered? Was it the desert taipan in Australia? The world's new most deadly snake.
I
or
don't know,
whatever.
but they find all sorts of shit in Australia.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. And there's nothing in Australia. Like, the middle of Australia is nothing. Just miles.
yeah.
It's just miles and miles of nothing. And if we're still finding junk there, and there's 100 million rednecks looking for Bigfoot, and nobody's found it, I don't know. I just can't believe. We actually had a science teacher on campus that was a Bigfoot.
Really?
Yes, like a Sasquatch believer. And he goes, and he comes to me one day, and he's like, "Hey, man, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but I was in Arkansas, and I communicated with a Bigfoot." I was like, "Man,
How do you communicate with a
exactly."
Bigfoot?
I was like, "Man, shut up. Get out of here with all that." And he's like, "No. The Bigfoot, when they want to communicate, they communicate with each other by beating on hollow trees, right? They take like a stick and they hit a hollow tree, and it makes this noise." And he's like, "So I hit a tree with a stick, and then I heard something hit a tree with a stick." I was like, "You don't think it was just some other drunk idiot, like 5 campsites over, that's telling his friends, I'm communicating with a Bigfoot? It's just you two morons out there beating on trees, And I don't know. What do you think about the people that they swear they saw something, they heard something, and they want to say it's Bigfoot? I mean, would you call them a liar?
It's just kind of those things like whenever you go like with conspiracy theorists. That's one example. When you spend your life like looking for crazy shit, you only tend to become crazy.
So you think they're so obsessed with
they're so obsessed with it that
they're gonna see it.
They psychologically it just happens. That's it. Like whenever you find or whenever you look for something, somehow gets there one way or the other.
Right.
Or like even or even like as simple as in I'm gonna throw this a certain distance because you're in the Highland Games. You obviously have to think about that all the time.
Yeah, you have to envision.
You have to envision it, and like every athlete knows this. Like for example, a fighter, you have to think about your move, what your opponent's gonna do. As a baseball player, you have to think about how the pitch is gonna be, your approach before you get up to the plate,
right?
So on and so forth. So you somehow manifest it.
Yeah, I get you. So, like, as a baseball player, you'll never hit a home run unless you imagine.
You imagine that you hit a home run.
Right.
You have to put yourself in that situation.
Interesting.
So, I guess in that point of view, like you said, like those crazy rednecks looking for Bigfoot, they just spend so much time and they're so...
Right.
They believe in it so much that they end up... Or they think that they see it.
Right. I guess that's... Because I do wonder about these people that are cryptozoologists, right? Crypto being hidden, zoology being study of animals, right? And so they're like really educated people that have sort of like dedicated their life to trying to finding Bigfoot. And it's hard for me because I'm like, how can you have like a legit wildlife education, and you know about fossil record, you know about various other sorts of evidence, right? Like, even the fact that we have evidence of extinct animals from 150 years ago, 200 years ago, but even the dinosaurs, we got fossil evidence of the dinosaurs, but we don't have any fossil evidence of Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. And yet, you're still out here looking for Bigfoot? Mm-hmm. But like you say, I guess it becomes an obsession, right?
Yeah, it definitely does. Mm-hmm. Kind of like you said, like even those people that... What did you say they were called?
Squatchers?
No, not Squatch. No, I mean like the actual...
Cryptozoologists.
Cryptozoologists, yeah, like them.
Yeah, it has to be like they've manifested this in their mind. I don't know. Maybe... Is that really it? I wonder if that is. Because I also wonder how people can... And this is a rabbit trail. We'll go back to Sasquatch in a minute. But I do wonder about the current political climate, right? Because it's an election year. Mm-hmm. I wonder about people who really build up a certain party in their mind as really being the party of righteousness, right? Mm-hmm. This part, either Republican Party or Democratic Party, that party does nothing wrong, and everybody in it is good, and everybody in the other party is bad. Like, is that really just some like weird mass delusion? Like, you know what I'm saying? Am I making any sense?
It has to be. Yeah, it has to be though.
Because I don't understand why people can't acknowledge in the same way that I don't think Sasquatch exists. I also don't think that either one of the two parties controlling the United States at the moment is actually good. Mm-hmm. Right? Neither of them is good.
Keep talking.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That there's bad people. There's probably good people in either party. But there's loads of bad people that do loads of bad things. Mm-hmm. We know that. That's the one thing that we know about both parties.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So,
I feel in terms of politics, just people that really depend on the government, that mm-hmm. they get really into it because they really they live off of it. So it's kind of like
right.
You want to make sure you're still gonna get your welfare check or whatever it is. Okay. And so that's when you get more into like who's doing what, etc. Kind of like me, like I'm starting out a business. Like I don't give a fuck. As long as you legalize weed, I don't care.
I get you. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, and that's true. I mean, when my wife and I had a small business, we never paid more attention to taxes than we did till we had a business.
Is that your phone?
Yeah.
Damn. All right, we're back. What were you saying?
What was I saying?
We're talking about. Oh, you're talking about your small business that you were.
Oh yeah, no, like I got really into like small business law and small business taxes and stuff like that because we owned a small business. So of course you immerse yourself right in whatever that world is, and maybe that's the way these people do with Bigfoot. Maybe that's the way people do with politics. Is that the mind just focuses on something so hard that I don't know if obsession is the right word.
I would say it's obsession.
Okay.
Because even
It's
with
like
even if you go to professionals like athletes, artists, actors, all sorts of people, they just get like these obsessions for music, and that's all their life is. They wake up, make music from like by the time they wake up, by the time they go to bed,
right?
Like 16, 20 hours a day. They do it again the next day.
I do wonder about some of these professional, like strongman. I love strongman, but some of these professional athletes, and this is true of football, and it's true of baseball. You got people that are so obsessed that they destroy their bodies, right? Their elbows are destroyed, their shoulders are destroyed, their knees, their back, and it's not like they're making that much money. Like a lot of them, they're trying to go pro, right? And here they are in college, and they've had 5 or 6 surgeries.
Yeah.
They've had $200,000 worth of surgeries, and like, it's not like you're making $10 million a game or anything, And so, you gotta say, where's the line, right? Where have you crossed over into crazy? I don't know. Maybe crazy is the wrong. Maybe it is obsession or hyper focus.
It's obsession.
I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't use the word crazy because it sounds mentally ill, but I feel like it can
definitely with like the crazy geniuses, like you see these examples, like for example Steve Jobs wasn't very normal. Elon Musk is definitely not very normal.
Wouldn't call normal.
You wouldn't call these people normal, but it's their hyper obsession for creating a better car or going into space,
right?
Whatever it is. It's that obsession for that.
I have always wondered about going to the moon. I'm gonna sound like the worst scientist ever. I'm gonna sound like the worst scientist ever. What was the whole point of going to the moon? You brought back some dirt. You put up a mirror. You put up a flag. But the dollar amount and the effort and sheer materials used in the space race seems crazy.
So you believe we went to the moon?
Sure. I think we went to the moon.
Okay.
But I don't know why. What was the good of it? What came of it? And if you look at the I've been looking into the missions to explore Titan and the probes and everything that were used to, everything that we've learned about Titan, the moon of Saturn, that could potentially support life, right? And the mathematics is insane. The engineering is insane. The physics is unbelievable. But at least I understand why it was done.
Yeah.
Because we're looking for a potential place to relocate mankind, right? But the moon? I mean, if you look at how much dollars was spent in the space race with Russia, and if you were to put all that money back into the U.S. economy at the time, I don't know. Maybe I'm talking crazy, but it seems like a waste, honestly.
Yeah.
It seems like a waste.
No, I see where you're getting from.
Yeah.
What do you think of Mars?
I think, you mean in terms of like potential habitation?
Well, first of all, just going to Mars, because the plan is 2024 or something like that as of now.
Right. I think that this is another thing, and maybe I'm going to sound like the worst scientist in the world. I have thought that we should figure out how to colonize the deep ocean and colonize and figure out how to deal with rising sea levels before we deal with colonizing Mars, right? And so that there was a book, and then there was a TV or a movie out called The Martian or whatever, and those were brilliant. Brilliant. And I totally agree. Like the concept of having greenhouses, growing your own food, and recycling waste, recycling water. Yes, I'm all down. But if we can't make it work in the ocean, why are we bothering with going to Mars?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And same thing with cities dealing with sea level rise. Why would we bother about relocating to Mars if we can't solve that problem first? Right? So, like, I don't know if that makes me a bad scientist or just different priorities, but like, I feel like we got problems on Earth to solve, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's the thing though, because it's not a government thing. Like they're all private. They're all billionaires. Like private,
it would have to
private
be
owned.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even that's how airplanes started. They started or
Private
the mail.
venture.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it was just who creates a better plane.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and that's one of the issues with. I was talking with one of my kids about just the concept of war in general.
Yeah.
And is war good, or is war always bad? And I think in a larger sort of empirical sense, you know, if you look at mankind, right? I mean, death in the thousands or millions is of course bad. Mm-hmm. No one wants that. But if you look at the technological advances that have come out of war, it's huge, right? And you're talking about planes. Even just look at the advancement in planes from the start to the end of World War II. It's huge. Mm-hmm. And I mean, would we have had the Concorde? Or would we have had jet propulsion and all these other stuff if we hadn't have had World War II? I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, would there have been a reason?
Rockets, especially.
Ooh, what do you think about? Okay.
Are we going into Operation Paperclip?
I think we are. Because what do you think about alien intervention?
That's a good one. Oh shit! No, hold on.
Okay, so I'm thinking about. So like, I was looking at the before. So oh man, I can't remember the scientist's name that was involved in Paperclip, but it was the same scientist that said that the Nazis had help developing rocket propulsion.
Oh hell yeah, they did.
So you believe the aliens showed up and helped the Nazis?
Oh, no. That's a little different.
No, I mean, I'm asking, you think there's alien intervention in our technology, like
in that? I don't know. I really haven't gone into much. I'm not well read enough to like answer that. But shit, you look at like I always mention this on the podcast because I've been to Germany twice. Mm-hmm. Like they're just very efficient, and they've always been like even some of the best cars are like BMW, Audi, Porsche. They're all German, and they were all at one point military. Like they would make tanks, airplanes. Like BMW,
right. They were a military contractor.
Yeah. Because BMW started out as planes, and I believe Audis made tanks or something. Mm-hmm. They were all different. Even Volkswagen. Well, Volkswagen was actually invented by the Nazis to have so people can have affordable cars. Mm-hmm. That's really what the name is, because Volks means like people, folks, wagon, cars. So Volkswagen,
the car of the people.
The car of the people. That's the literal German translation of Volkswagen, and it was invented by the Nazis.
Right.
So everyone can have affordable cars.
But there were scientists that supposedly have claimed, this is all very supposed, that German scientists were visited by extraterrestrials and had help developing technologies, particularly in rocket propulsion, things like that. And they were working on a flying saucer and things like that when the war ended. And it's definitely interesting to bat around, you know, to entertain that idea.
Do you know the Bob Lazar story?
Do what?
The Bob Lazar story?
Maybe. Refresh me.
Damn, you need to get into that. So it's basically a guy. He has a documentary on Netflix, and he's also been on with Joe Rogan. That's actually how I heard of him.
Okay.
But he claims that he worked in Area 51, and he was working there in the 80s, and they were working on different spacecraft, and there was a certain element, I believe it was element 115, that is basically like the anti-gravity element. And at the time when he was there in the 80s, like it wasn't even on the table. Like it got on the periodic table in like 03. Someone figured out how to produce the element. But he claims that they were working on it since the 80s, and that was like the main element that went into all the spacecraft, like the anti-gravity one.
To get them to be able to change direction so quickly and to really not be affected by gravity.
Yeah, and then he said that he would take people out to the desert, and like they'll see like these spacecraft making like these really weird like maneuvers and all this sort of stuff. Like there's no way. Yeah. So it's like whenever you get a laser, you start pointing it around.
Right.
That's basically what it looked like. So it's like there's no way that any sort of vehicle can make like those type of maneuvers.
Right, because of inertia and things like that. So somehow or another, physics doesn't
known
apply.
Physics. Yeah.
Right. Interesting. Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, you definitely. And then.
But I'm not getting obsessed like Bigfoot. No. Okay, I'm not going the Bigfoot route on this.
It is really interesting. And then even a few months ago, Pentagon announced that they figured out that there's spacecraft that are not made on this Earth or in this world.
Where was this? I'm interested.
It was in the Pentagon. It was very, very recently. I'm gonna look it up.
See, I've got some military buddies that have said they absolutely think that UFOs are legit, and that for whatever reason, that aliens visit, the Earth. And
like the Pentagon announced it. Like they made a public announcement. But that's the thing though about 2020. Like there's so much crazy shit going on.
Right.
That's the perfect time. Like what? Aliens exist. Here you go.
Exactly. Right.
That's basically
everybody's
what they did.
Distracted by the way we've known about aliens.
Yep, aliens.
Can't say we didn't tell you. Yep.
Yeah. Here I'm.
Aliens.
Yeah, they're here. I mean, they released videos, and like obviously I'm looking for like the official announcement, whatever it was. They said, quote, "not made on this Earth."
Interesting.
Top secret Pentagon UFO task force reportedly expected to reveal some findings. This was on July 24th, 2020.
Wow. So that was like a minute ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's very interesting. Like read
it does,
about all this.
It does make you wonder because
it was from the Pentagon.
Right. So somebody's going to ask for evidence. Mm-hmm. Right. So I guess there's a Freedom of Information Act, right? Like somebody's going to ask for, why did you say that? Like what evidence do you have of saying that?
They release videos.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's one. It's like
I definitely think that aliens is a lot more believable than Bigfoot.
Oh, I mean,
I would say.
You think about how big everything is. Like we're a speck of dust in the universe.
Right.
Like there's as many galaxies like ours as there are grains of sand on Earth.
That's crazy. I wonder what aliens think of us in 2020.
There's a lot of stuff here. It was like a few months ago, or like a month ago.
Okay, wait, I've seen this. It's from the fighter plane, right?
Yeah.
And they're following this UFO, and the thing is just hauling. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough. Now, that does look super bizarre. Now, but you can't imagine that the federal government would like buy into a deep fake, and just because I do wonder some of those things that like with the footage of Bigfoot is clearly a sham. It's it's a setup, it's a hoax or whatever. Well, man, look at that thing go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people on their phone just look up Pentagon UFO and it'll show different videos. When was this released? This one was actually in April. Oh, in April it was when they released the videos.
Gotcha.
And in July it was whenever they claimed that the craft were not made on this Earth.
Interesting. So let me ask you this, and since you got your phone out and you're looking stuff up, my son hit me with this the other day, and I'm interested. Because one of the things that really throws me off about Bigfoot is that nobody has a body, right? Nobody's hit one with a car, nobody's shot one, one hasn't tripped and fell off a cliff and bonked its head and died. You know, like how's it? Nobody has ever found a dead one, right? Even if they just die, like, do they bury their dead? Do they eat the dead? I mean, they don't burn the dead. Like, how is there no dead bodies ever found of these things?
What if the aliens mutilate them?
Maybe they are aliens. Okay, well, we'll talk about that in a second. And so there's a fella that claims to have found one, but it's like 800 pounds and 9 feet tall and whatever, and so he cut the hands off. So go ahead and look it up on your phone. Supposedly there's severed hands of a Bigfoot that are supposed to be legit.
So Bigfoot hands? Is that what I look up?
Yeah. And it's called a different word. I think it was actually found in Japan or something like that. But,
I'm getting all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. So, like, supposedly somebody...
Did Washington... Wait.
Maybe I'm wrong about Japan. Maybe it's Washington. And a scalp. Hands and a scalp. So, I don't know why in the world... If you were cutting something off, why wouldn't you just take the head? But
oh no, this one's just a video. Or it's like a tweet. That's a picture, and of course it's blurry.
Yeah, but that's the thing with these Bigfoot videos, like.
Because that one's like fairly recent, but of course it's gonna be blurry. It doesn't. It looks. Yeah. It's very human-like.
I don't disbelieve that these people saw something or heard something, But what I don't believe is it is a giant ape species that we have absolutely zero record of. No fossil record, no dead bodies, no nothing. No, like.
If you think about it though, like just imagine the first time someone discovered a gorilla. Like the way you would describe it, would you believe it? Like there's a 600-pound thing out there. Yeah. That has teeth the size of like beer bottles.
Huge. They're not that big, but
they're pretty big.
Yeah, but gorillas are massive.
Well, I mean, you're gonna go crazy if you've seen one. Like, fuck.
Yeah, and well, even if you told me that there was a thing that looks like a human but is strong enough to break a tree in half with its hands, I'd have been like, nah, come on, man.
Then you see that fucking gorilla there chasing after you. Like,
right.
Nope.
Well, but all the native peoples, and now here is one thing that's compelling. All the native peoples of Africa. Had stories about gorillas, right?
Yeah.
And loads of the native peoples in the United States have ancient stories about Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems compelling to me. Like if you had told me there's 50 different Indian tribes that have legends about Bigfoot. Okay, I'll listen to that. It's not like the internet. It's not like the ancient Native Americans were tweeting, "Bro, I saw this Bigfoot." It's not like that at all. So of course, they're not making it up for likes or shares or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And if they have if all these different people have all these legends that are ancient, okay, I'll listen to that. But surely you've got to have fossils, right?
They should.
You should. And if there was fossils of it, and they were extinct. They went extinct, and that's why we don't see them now. Like, oh, okay, I'll buy into that. But if you're telling me that like everybody that's had 5 shots in Washington State wanders off in the woods and sees a Bigfoot, like, come on. I mean, it's like we said, man. You wanted to see a Bigfoot.
That should be the weed.
Peyote or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, mushrooms and stuff. I don't know. Maybe you see Bigfoot. Maybe one of the people.
Maybe you see Bigfoot on shrooms.
Right. Maybe you see Bigfoot on shrooms. Maybe that's the key. Maybe that's the key to it. Maybe if you
possibly.
Okay, so I was watching this ridiculous TV show, absolutely ridiculous TV show that you need to watch.
What's the name of it?
Mountain Monsters. Mountain Monsters. No joke. I think it's on History Channel. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. It is just the most toothless, illiterate overalls. Oh my God. It's the worst thing I've ever seen. But it is somehow fascinating. And so they're chasing, what they do is they chase all these like almost urban legends, but it's like rural legends, right? Like Wolfman and Mothman and, Bigfoot and these monsters, right? Like supposedly it's these like legends of local monsters. and they try to catch them or see them or whatever. And of course they never do. They never catch anything. They never get any evidence of anything. And they'll be like, well, so it's a footprint. And it's just like it's one of their own footprints or something stupid. Or like they moved some leaves out of the way and took a picture of it and like, oh, it's clearly the Wolfman of, Jefferson County. I'm like, you just made that up.
Yeah.
But what got me was when they're looking for, it's one of the 50 different Bigfoots that they look for.
Oh, there's different Bigfoots?
Oh yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. All different counties, different states, and everything they look for, and they got different names. One's like the Grass Man, and the other was all these different. They got names for them. And oh man, I'm telling you, this gets serious.
Really?
And oh yeah. Anyway, one of the guys on the team was like, "That's when the Bigfoot re-entered the spirit world." I was like, "Whoa, hold on, pause." Hold on a second. Now, this gets interesting. If Bigfoot isn't really real in the sense that, like Australopithecus, right? Whereas you actually have like a giant ape. Not that sort of real, but real in the sense of like the paranormal. Mm-hmm. Where Bigfoot is a manifestation of some sort of like spirit. What do you think about that?
Shit.
Yeah. What now? What if the ancient Indians were actually, the ancient Native, I shouldn't say the word Indian, I hate that word. The ancient Native Americans were actually, what their legends were about was the spirit that comes forward as like a manifestation and then like re-enters the spirit world.
I mean,
where's your shrooms? Where's your
yeah,
shrooms?
I mean, from my experience, I know that you see all sorts of shit whenever you're on that.
Right. Okay.
So it is a possibility that you see Bigfoot whenever you're tripping on something.
There you have it.
Even you see all these like ancient civilizations, like you said, like they all had like their own different rituals whenever they had some sort of brew, whether it was the ayahuasca, whether it was the toad.
Yeah, that's true.
Like some sort of psychedelic. You know about
just licking a toad.
They don't.
Yeah. Oh my God!
It's actually interesting how they do that, though.
Oh, I believe you, but what you need to do is just let me move forward, believing that there's a ritual of people out there that just lick a toad, just pass a toad around and lick it, and then see Bigfoot.
That's what
That's
dolphins
the money. That's oh my God.
And that's what dolphins do with pufferfish. You showed me that.
How do you say? Do they have a legend of a giant dolphin?
They have
that maybe they do. Maybe they have a legend of it's like a giant dolphin out there that when they lick a pufferfish or whatever, and they're tripping balls and they see a giant, they're like, dude, I saw a tail print of a giant dolphin out here. That's awesome. There's a dolphin Bigfoot.
I mean, there's a possibility they get high off of the pufferfish, start thinking about this weird tank that you end up imprisoned in for 40 years and you can't come out of until you're dead.
Yeah, they got like SeaWorld.
Yeah, and like the other one's like, nah, fuck that. They take it out the pufferfish. So like, man,
there's dolphins
you're
like
right.
me that are skeptical.
There has to be dolphins.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And maybe that's what killer whales are. You know, they're a type of dolphin. Maybe it's just a legendary. Maybe all the other dolphins just sitting around clicking. You know, and they'd be like, you heard of the giant black dolphins? Like, nah, it's bullshit. Like, there's no giant black dolphins. And then friggin' killer whales show up, and they're like, oh my God, it's real. I saw them. Maybe that's how it goes. I don't know.
I mean, think about how big the ocean is.
Yeah. Right. It's true. I guess you could probably live your whole life and never see a killer whale.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
Yeah. And I but going back to the toad licking and the pufferfish, I guess they chew on the pufferfish, right? Because they don't actually eat it.
They suck on it because they scare it or they
pufferfish.
do something. Then whenever the pufferfish gets scared, it expands.
Puffs.
And it puffs. You know what I meant. It puffs, and then that's when it releases the venom. But that venom ends up being like a drug to them.
Right, I get you. And you know, like primitive peoples, because you always wonder, like when I was learning plants, you know, you learn plants that are toxic don't eat these berries because those are bad for you, right? Don't eat these leaves; it's bad for you. Well, somebody had to figure that out. So I'm wondering, there's got to be primitive peoples, our ancient ancestors out there. Dude, eat this berry. Like I saw something weird. Eat like 5 of these berries. You're gonna see Bigfoot. Maybe that's
you ever heard of the stoned ape theory?
No.
Really?
No.
You've never.
What is this?
Not okay.
Stoned ape theory.
Stoned ape.
Is that a metal band? Is that like a heavy metal
That'd
band?
be a good name.
Yeah.
It's a Terrence McKenna hypothesis.
Okay.
Basically, what he says is that because it's scientifically proven that we started out in Africa, like around Congo, Kenya, that area.
Yeah, Ethiopia, yeah.
Yeah, it was around 5 million years ago. That was also there was also global warming at that point. Mm-hmm. And that was also whenever the brain doubled in size.
I want to just correct some things about the term global warming. Everyone listening has not seen a woolly mammoth, and the reason why is because the Earth has warmed. So we're just going to put that out there, that the Earth is warmer now than it used to be, right? So you can't say the globe doesn't warm. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk about mankind's involvement, we're going to say anthropogenic climate change, like those changes that have occurred since the Industrial Revolution. That's a different deal. But yes.
We'll get to that in a minute.
Well, yeah, maybe so. But I just want to make sure that, because somebody's going to be listening to this and go, global warming doesn't exist. Yes, it does. It's not an ice age.
Anyway, so it's around like 5 million years ago.
Right.
And that was also the point in time whenever the human brain doubled in size in like 2 million years, which is something unprecedented. Mm-hmm. Basically, what Terrence McKenna said is whenever the ice ages started or the ice caps started melting after the ice age, like that's when the Sahara started to happen, because all the jungles, everything was dying, everything turned into grassland. And basically what he said is that these, like, some sort of ancient apes started leaving the jungle. Because obviously, like, it was dying. Everything was dying. It was drying out.
Everything was changing.
It was turning into grassland. So, like, these apes started leaving the jungle. And, of course, they're going to have to find new stuff to eat. Because everything's dead. And the first thing they're going to look at is the poop. It's cow shit. Okay. The reason for that is because, like, there's all sorts of, like, little bugs and, like, worms.
Absolutely.
So, like, it's a great source of food whenever you're a hungry ape.
And mushrooms,
and mushrooms grow there.
Mm-hmm. And those mushrooms that are edible, then I know from my own experience, wild hogs will eat that immediately. And wild hogs are a very intelligent creature, just like pre-humans, like previous modern man. Okay. Yeah. I'm digging this.
Yeah,
so they see mushrooms.
They eat them because they think it's something. Next thing you know, they start tripping.
Okay.
And then that's also like that's also when he claims that we started eating meat.
Okay.
Because everything was dying, and then like you'd go chase the cattle or whatever it was.
Right.
And you look at their shit, the mushrooms are growing there, you eat them, you trip, next thing you know, it's like there's something else out here.
So you think the idea is that these pre-humans, while tripping, sort of imagined a different way to live. Mm-hmm. Like we're sort of
that's kind of
having this out-of-body experience where they imagine a different mode of living.
Yeah.
And then they're just smart enough to act out, to actually act upon.
Yeah, because that's when the brain, that's around the time period when the brain doubled in size.
Right.
Which is also scientifically proven fact. That doubled in size in like 2 million years, which is something
evolutionarily speaking, that's
it's unprecedented. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's what he claims. That's how we discovered the psychedelic effect on like the mushrooms, especially because that was at the time. And
who is this that wrote this?
It was Terrence McKenna.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna have to check out that. Is there got a lecture on that or something?
He has all sorts of stuff.
I'm gonna have to
check that out. You can listen, or his brother's still alive, I believe, Dennis McKenna. He's also really into that. He's also been on with Joe Rogan a few times.
Gotcha.
And like Joe Rogan's also huge on psychedelics.
Yeah. No, I've listened to him talk about not so much psychedelics, but I was listening to him talk about THC and how with edibles and dabs and stuff you can go way too far. Mm-hmm. and that can actually have some like negative psychological effects. Like there's no way you could smoke yourself into 100 milligrams, but or 200 milligrams or anything like that, but you can eat it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Yeah, you can expose yourself to that much, but if you're doing it in a relatively unnatural way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that can really kind of mess people up.
Because edibles are really weird.
Mm-hmm.
And not only the effect, but also, like I said, like you get cocky. Because like
you do 20 milligrams, you feel like you can handle 50
or even you won't feel, because the effect takes at least like 45 minutes to an hour. It's like you eat half of a brownie or whatever it is, 30 minutes later you're not feeling anything. So it's like I'm gonna eat the other half.
I'm gonna eat 4 more brownies, right?
Yeah. Next thing you know,
right.
It all hits you at once.
Right.
You start regretting life decisions.
Right.
After that.
So it sounds like you've been through this where you're too high.
I've gone to
like way too high.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it edibles?
It was actually a bong hit.
Oh, okay.
That's what it was.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Now I know.
Yeah, it was in Germany.
Okay. So what, like, and you talked about your experience with mushrooms. I mean, what did you get to a place where you were imagining a different mode of living, like living differently, behaving differently?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so that's what you're saying, like that theory resonated with you because you lived that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's, I mean, even if you look at the name psychedelic, it literally means exposing the mind or something like that.
Interesting.
Because obviously, like psych, we all know it's a root word
right.
for mind, and then it was like del something like that. It means exposing.
Okay.
Just like the exposure of the mind. And whenever you take this stuff, whatever it is, that's what you do. Like it really reveals so much about yourself. You had no idea it wasn't even there.
I had a former student was telling me about ego death. I need to read about that.
Oh, definitely happens.
Interesting.
Really, it really does. And great example of that's Mike Tyson.
Okay.
Because like you've seen him like in his. I'm not sure if you saw him.
90s,
yeah. I'm not sure if you saw him live if you were into boxing, but like you obviously knew Mike Tyson won.
Sure.
You know that whenever he fought, he would knock a guy down, not even around, and he would always talk about being a god and like all of that stuff.
He's incredibly arrogant.
Yeah, he was. And you look at him now; he's like the most loving person out there, and he talks about doing the toad, cause that's yeah. He's like, yeah, man, I did the toad, man.
What is doing the toad? Is it? Please tell me you just snatch up a toad and lick it, and that's how this doing the toad goes.
That's actually how Disney, like, you remember whenever there's a disease that they have. What, I'm not sure what it's called. You probably know of it.
The fungus? Is that what you're
No, I'm talking about the toad.
Yeah, there's a fungus that has laid waste to
because I remember because there was a thing going on whenever they released like the first movie Princess and the Frog, how there was a lot of that going on because little kids would go outside
and lick frogs.
Yeah.
Huh.
Here's the thing about like if you want the actual because it's a very specific toad. I don't remember the name. I'm gonna look it up actually, but they live.
I have vague memories of there was a show, Futurama, that like one of the recurring characters was the Hypnotoad that like controlled your mind or whatever.
It is here. Like it's still loading, but it lives in the Sonoran Desert, so it's like northern Mexico, southern U.S. That's where the toad lives. And what they do is that they'll pop its back. It's a Colorado River toad.
Okay.
You may or may not like know of it. You probably do.
It's one of those things that I probably learned once and then just
you forgot about it in college.
I just didn't have a reason to remember it.
So they have this venom that contains 5-MeO-DMT.
Okay.
Which is it's kind of similar to the DMT, except it's a little bit. It's more
DMT
potent.
Is acid.
No, DMT is its own thing. Dimethyltryptamine.
Okay, got it.
And then LSD is a little different. Well, that has 5-MeO DMT. That's basically like the ego death one. It's very, very potent. But what they do is that they'll pop its back like pimples, and like
The
the venom,
the glands that all, or the poison glands.
They'll put it in like a piece of glass, and like they'll let it sit there and dry up, and then they'll scrape it off the glass, and then you smoke it.
Okay.
It's an interesting process, but the really weird thing about it is that it's so potent. It only takes 15 minutes. It's a 15-minute trip. Like, whenever you're doing DMT or, like, the toad or anything that has that DMT compound, it's only, like, 15 minutes. The reason for that is because the brain already knows what it is.
Interesting. So it hits the brain almost immediately.
It hits the brain, like, 2 or 3 seconds after you take it. Wow. So it's like, you take a hit, and it's going to take you there immediately. And it's something, so I haven't done DMT yet, but, like, you hear all the time. People have done it. That's all they're going to talk about.
Interesting.
Because it's just that it has that much of an effect on their lives. But that's what it'll do. You'll take a hit, you'll feel the effect in like 5-7 seconds, and it'll only be there for like 15 minutes.
And that's the life-changing experience.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because you don't feel time whenever you're on that. Like time is irrelevant.
I did the toad. Interesting.
I did. You hear Mike Tyson mention it all the time.
And he says, I did the toad.
He did the toad. It changed him, though. Like, he's the most, like, you hear, he has his own podcast also, but, like, you hear him speak now, and it's absolutely nothing of what he was.
I'm looking forward to him fighting again.
Oh, he is, yeah.
And so that's mostly what I have followed with Mike Tyson, is like, I'm looking forward to the next fight.
Yeah.
But maybe
he even said, I mean, there was a point also after he finished fighting where he was like really overweight and all of that, and he even said that the reason for that was that he was scared of having his ego back, and whenever he would go to the gym, he would feel that ego.
Right, and he would feel that pride.
Would feel that pride again.
Right.
So that's why he stopped going.
Interesting. That's an interesting concept.
Yeah. Sorry, what were we talking about?
The toad. We had just wrapped up a conversation about the toad.
Yeah, we're talking about the toad.
I do have a question for you, though. Like, so we've kind of danced around the issue of Bigfoot, and maybe that ancient cultures that have all these legends, okay, of these Bigfoot and Bigfoot-like creatures and stuff, that we're not talking to each other. You know, there's no way that Native Americans in Arkansas are talking to Native Americans in Washington State. And why would, and for what purpose, right?
Yeah.
There's no reason to do a hoax or anything like that. But these people all saw something, or heard these things, saw these things, and believed in these things. And so if you're telling me that, like, there's a chance you see things when you're on mushrooms, would you do mushrooms and look for Bigfoot? Like, do you really think that is where Bigfoot, would show itself, I guess?
That is definitely a possibility. That's also like another thing that I've experienced in the past. Like, I'll usually have a goal before I trip, which it's whether it is fixing.
Again, so we're talking about obsession or focus.
Yeah,
right? So you gotta focus.
Or manifestation at this point, because like
right.
I wanna fix up my relationship with so and so, or I wanna work on this, or like if you're an athlete, I wanna get this move right, or I wanna fix a certain pitch, or like a certain movement that I'm working on, whatever it is. And whenever you take these substances, you'll one way or another get there.
So the focus of your mind doesn't change. It's just your perception of things changes.
Yeah, it puts things into perspective.
So like theoretically, if I'm focused on throwing shot put, when I do shrooms, and I'm going to continue to think about throwing shot put, but just in a new way. Interesting.
Or a more efficient way, most likely.
Okay.
They did an experiment, actually. I'm not sure how long ago it was. It's that they'll put some sort of mold, and they put all these dots around, which is like food to them, and they arranged them in a certain way, and the mold had to figure out where to go. And I'm just gonna pull up the video.
Okay.
But they ended up recreating like Tokyo, like the Tokyo subway system.
What?
And it's yeah. It sounds, I don't even know how to describe it. I just have to show you.
See, what you telling me that mold thought about
Yeah.
the subway system? What? I'm really curious what feedback you get on this podcast, because I'm wondering how many people are willing to entertain the idea that Bigfoot kind of comes in and out of
slime mold,
like plasmodial slime molds. That was very misunderstood. Anyway, how many people are willing to entertain the idea that Bigfoot isn't really an ape, but is really a manifestation that comes in and out of existence? You know.
See, look, that's the video kind of explains what they're doing. But they put like these certain
a pattern of cornflakes.
Yeah.
I wonder how he got funding for this experiment.
I have no clue.
You know, when you tell an investor, I've got these cornflakes,
and then like that slime mold starts, it figures out where all the flakes are, and it'll start making like different roots and stuff to connect all of them
to
yeah
flow the nutrients between the rest of its cells.
Yeah. And
that is bananas.
Yeah. And they're gonna put it next to the Tokyo subway system, which is like it's supposed to be the most efficient
subway system in the world.
Yeah. And that mold made it even more efficient.
Essentially, the same paths of efficiency are followed by this relatively mindless thing.
Yeah.
Right. And then maybe, and it's because what I'm thinking is it looks very similar to the vein structure of a leaf.
Mm-hmm.
And so makes me wonder that maybe when we think about things, we overthink things.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
And that maybe this creature that doesn't have a mind, regardless if it was a plant or a plasmodial slime mold, does things more efficiently than when we think about them. That is interesting. You know, because how many athletes will tell you get in your own head?
Oh,
right?
hell yeah.
And you overthink things, and then you start to screw up when you think about it.
Hell yeah.
And that a lot of times the best way to be the best athlete is to stop thinking about it and just do and don't think. Interesting.
Yeah, so that mold figures out how to create the subway system, and it makes it better than what humans can do.
Or humans thought about anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, like really just look up the slime, like the Tokyo slime mold, or like Tokyo subway system.
Tokyo slime mold would be another good name for a band. just Tokyo, like a punk band.
I see that. I see that.
Exactly. You'd go see Tokyo slime mold.
Or like that'd be more like an indie band.
yeah. It's
Tokyo
like some sort of weird instrument, like a jug. You know, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like a jug and a banjo or something. No, that's going to be a Bigfoot name. That's going to be like Spirit World Bigfoot or whatever. I don't know.
Spirit World.
It's got to involve Bigfoot somehow or another. No, but it's like no joke. They take it really seriously, these people in these states, man. Like I went to, when we went to Hot Springs, Arkansas, I got the kids all like Sasquatch t-shirts because that's no joke. I'm not kidding. You go and you get like Hot Springs and it'll, t-shirts, and then half the stuff in the store has got Bigfoot on it. And Oklahoma's the same way. People will swear to you they've seen Bigfoot. And I don't think that they ate like a ton of shrooms. Nobody's ever been like, I ate like 2 grams of shrooms and then the Bigfoot showed himself.
Bigfoot.
Yeah. It was not, I mean, I don't know, maybe people.
What if it's an alien?
That's another theory that's been dropped around, is that the reason you don't find Bigfoot is because Bigfoot doesn't stay here. That Bigfoot leaves the planet because Bigfoot is a form of alien.
So what do you think about alien civilizations and like advanced unearthly?
Right. Advanced as far as we would consider it, like advanced
technological.
In a technological sense.
What do you think of that?
I think it's almost certain. Right? I think it would be naive to think that, or how arrogant would it be to think that we are the most advanced thing of all existence, right? Ever has been, ever will be, ever, that exists in present time, that we are the most advanced mind. Like, that's incredibly arrogant, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the mystery of it. It can be a possibility.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And it would actually be easier for me to swallow the concept of Bigfoot being an alien.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the Bigfoot would be an alien that is sort of exploring these unpopulated areas and then leaves again on a spacecraft. That would be easier for me to handle than that there's a giant ape.
Being a Sasquatch. What if it lived in the Amazon or like in the Congo forest?
I'm sure there's also.
Would you believe it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think the largest. I think is it Australopithecus? Am I getting that name right? There was a giant ape in the fossil record, and I can't put my finger on the scientific name, but there is a giant ape. This is like an orangutan that's like 8 or 9 feet tall, that is in the fossil record, and so. Yeah, I mean, I think that where in the same regions those fossils are found, if we go back to where continents were, closer together, things like that, that maybe this organism did exist in these jungles for a long period of time after modern man came to be. I could get behind that. Mm. Outside of Seattle, I don't know about that. Outside of. Hot Springs, Arkansas. I don't know about all that. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. But, yeah, I could see it in a lost dark jungle somewhere.
There's a guy named David Cho that he said whenever he was younger, like, he's one of those people that just didn't give a fuck. Like, he's a very, very, very interesting character. You should look into him. But basically what he did, he was like 20. He just said fuck it and went to the Congo and looked for a dinosaur. That's literally what he said. To look
for a dinosaur.
He literally said he was looking for a dinosaur. And then he met all these people. And then here's also the weird thing about folklore. Because, like, there's all sorts of mythical creatures, like, all around the earth.
Right. I guess that's what I was looking for. Yeah, folklore.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah. And he would ask the natives, and usually the natives would be like, yeah, we've seen the dinosaur-like creature. Like, yeah, we've seen the 20-something foot crocodile, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. But why is there no proof of it?
Right.
If they've seen it.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. I have the same question. I'm sitting here perplexed by the same thing. Like, if there's no proof of it, is it one of those things that did exist, that has been passed down for 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 years, and nobody's seen it lately, but like my grandma told me about it or whatever, but your grandma heard it from her great grandma and so on, that it's now just passed into legend, and that maybe that thing did exist, but it doesn't exist today. But then that does beg the question about fossils, right?
Yeah.
About fossil evidence and things like that.
We have none of that.
Yeah, and I know that someone's going to write you after hearing this podcast and say that fossil formation is actually really difficult, that a lot of things died without becoming fossils. And that is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. There's just lots of stuff, like you buried your pet goldfish in the backyard. That doesn't mean there's going to be a fossil there, that not everything becomes fossils. It's that period, right?
Stuff but if it's a 10-foot creature, there has to be something.
If it's a 10-foot creature that existed on Earth for 10 million, 100 million years, then yeah. So at some point, something's going to get buried in sand or whatever and become fossilized, right? I mean, and that's the same thing with like T-Rex. What is there? Somebody's going to look it up. I think there's like 5 complete T-Rex skeletons.
I have no clue.
Maybe it's actually a decent.
You can
number.
ask one of your kids that; they'll probably know.
Yeah, they probably will. I think it's less than 10. But anyway, I believe there are multiple complete.
Yeah, but there's something.
There were thousands of them.
Yeah,
there were thousands and thousands and thousands of them. But and 10 of them managed to become fossils. But yeah, but there's something. Exactly, there's something. So if this creature existed, so far back that every Native American tribe is familiar with him, that surely there's got to be a fossil somewhere, right? I don't know. Or somebody would have hit one with a car. Or hunters have got these motion detected infrared cameras, right? And so nobody's caught one on a game camera. Nobody's shot one. Nobody's, drinking and driving and hit one with their Jeep. Like, I don't know. Maybe they're aliens. I don't know.
Yeah, but even if you think about advanced civilizations, like why do they all have a similar idea of like love and communal living? Not only that, but like
But how do we know that?
No, but like, no, I'm just saying like an example. But even then, like the pyramids are a good example. You see pyramids all over the world. You see you see henges all over to measure time. How do different civilizations, like on different parts of the planet, figure that out?
Right. No, it's a very good question. And I have seen the theory on the different stones, the stones that are all set together. Like all over the world, there are ancient civilizations that had stones arranged in a certain way where there's like there's no tool that existed to cut angles like that and cut lines that sharp. I don't know. It's a very good question. And then there's the question of how they moved it. So you're suggesting that the Bigfoot is an alien and that some of these giant stone structures are actually built by these 9-foot tall, 800-pound creatures that would have been strong enough to lift these things and move these things about? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But
but now you're thinking about it. Right, so like if these structures were actually built by these aliens that were many times stronger than humans, like a workforce of
that's some like
Sasquatch.
ancient aliens on the History Channel. That's what you're thinking about.
Maybe so. See, I came in here ready to deny all this, and now you got me thinking. I'm not obsessed with it though. I'm not obsessed with it.
It's a good conversation.
It is a good conversation. It is an interesting thing, and I could see how people would really love to entertain the idea. You know what I mean? Of it is fun to entertain the idea of Sasquatch for sure.
Oh, definitely.
And aliens.
Definitely, yeah. It could be the shrooms. That's all. It could be. Here, I want to show you this before you get going because I know you're cutting pretty short.
Yeah.
But. It's basically the ayahuasca leaf. It's obviously found in the Amazon. It contains that DMT.
Okay.
So there's this really interesting video of a jaguar that eats it. So it shows that we're not the only ones that look for an altered state of consciousness. Like there's other.
Interesting.
Let me see how you react to that one. And like they obviously
I've heard I can't remember this guy's name, but I've heard this guy. It's like Peter or something. I've heard this narrator before.
But they obviously know what it is.
Right. Because why would an obligate carnivore go and so for the listeners, I mean, this thing goes and finds the leaf, pulls it off, goes to a safe place, and
you see him. Look how he trips balls.
Oh yeah.
You can see like the eyes dilate.
Oh yeah,
he's looking
gone.
out.
And he went and sought out this leaf and pulled it and everything. Why would an obligate carnivore do something like that?
He said he was tripping balls. He's on his back, seeing stuff.
Yeah, look at him go. And why would any animal put itself in danger? Because it's obviously in danger when it's in that state. Because look at it. He's not defending himself. He's not looking for threats or danger or anything.
Yeah.
He's essentially helpless at this point.
It's a yes and a no. Because it also, whenever you're on that, it heightens your serotonin.
Interesting.
So it heightens your senses. I mean, really, I'll also show you in a minute. But the psilocybin, like this is mainly for the mushrooms, but psilocybin is actually it's chemically, it's very similar to serotonin.
Okay.
Like the molecule
chemical composition.
The molecule structure,
right,
and the chemicals very similar to serotonin. So the brain will actually take it in as serotonin.
Interesting.
So it'll break down the psilocin, it'll break down the psilocybin, make it into psilocin, and it becomes. Here, I'm gonna show you a picture of it. See, like, how similar it really is. Because it breaks it down to psilocin. So psilocin's on the left and serotonin's on the right. And you can see how very similar they are. So the brain knows what it is.
Right. The bonding angles and everything else are remarkably similar. Interesting. That's something I haven't even thought about before.
And like the DMT, it only takes 15 minutes because the brain already knows what it is. In fact, it actually produces it. It's produced in the pineal gland. That's
DMT
why
is.
DMT is produced in the pineal gland.
Right.
That's why like all these ancient civilizations were so obsessed over that. Because they believe that that's where the consciousness comes from. Like you see like the eye of Horus, the third eye, like all of that.
Right.
It goes back into the DMT, into consciousness.
To seeing a different reality.
And like they knew what it was. Like they knew that's what it was. Because whenever, like with the mummies, they'll take out the brain from the nose. And like I guess they'll like try to see how the brain works. And they somehow figured out the pineal gland. That's where the DMT is produced. And it only takes 15 minutes to process because it knows what it is. And
so
even
there's
like
already like enzymes and things available to process the chemical.
Yeah. And even Terrence McKenna made a joke about it. He said that if people are getting arrested for what do you call it? Possession of these certain drugs. Like, why don't they arrest anyone? Because we already have it.
That is a very good question.
Because it's produced in the brain, in the pineal gland.
That's a very good question. I guess it has to do with how much you're on.
It's kind of like a lighter. Right. Like you have like the box and you have like the stick. You can't make a fire unless you put them both together.
I get you.
It's kind of like that. And then there's even people that practice Kundalini yoga or like they somehow find the meditative state. And obviously it takes years to get to this certain state where you can hallucinate and you can make the brain produce DMT. And there's people that'll say that they've had experiences with Kundalini yoga specifically. And
that's like a hallucinogenic form of yoga.
Yeah. And obviously it takes years to get to that point.
To be on that sort of enlightenment.
Yeah.
Get you.
But it can happen.
Whoa.
And then like I said, like the first time I tried,
way more interesting than Bigfoot.
Yeah. No. That's why I literally talk about this like all the time on here. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's all good. But I mean, even the first time I did it, everything felt so familiar. Like I was
comfortable.
Yeah, definitely. Like you're in a good state. Like that's also another thing I would tell people is that make sure you're in a good state of mind.
Right.
Because if you're not, that's like it takes everything that's within you and it'll bring it out. It'll expose you throughout the trip.
Right. So your anxiety everything's amplified.
Everything's amplified.
Interesting.
And there are reports that it's helped people like PTSD or different traumas or like all sorts of stuff.
Right.
It really, really helps.
Or I guess it could cause them to relive something though. That's scary. Yeah, man, I got to get going. But this has been great.
Yeah, it was a great talk about Bigfoot.
You never know where Bigfoot's going to go.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it's a good tradition. Just have you on.
Well, I will see you next year.
Yeah, for sure.